Hey everyone. So today I wanted to record a video about something that I get asked a lot, which is what do I do when the eating disorder voice is so loud and so overwhelming that I can't even distinguish between what's my own thinking and what's the eating disorder. Now this is such a common thing to ask, to worry about. I certainly have a huge amount of experience um, of feeling totally overwhelmed by this kind of beast in my head, telling me all sorts of things that I don't know whether they're true or not, and I'd get kind of tangled up in this web of thinking that I could just felt like I was stuck in a fog, and I couldn't really see through it. And in those moments, it can be really overwhelming, and often you don't really know what to do because it's kind of like you're paralyzed. And that's first and foremost, I want to say that that's totally normal. That's fine. But the one thing that I want to say kind of straight off the bat is that it will pass, even though it might not feel like it at the time. Sometimes it can feel so heavy and overwhelming that it feels like it's going to stick around forever, but it will pass. It always does. So I want to start by reassuring you that's what will happen. But the second thing I want to say was when you're, because a lot of people ask what should I do when I'm stuck in that place where I'm kind of totally overwhelmed by all this thinking. And what I'd say to that is just start to notice what's actually going on. And by that I mean notice that what's happening is that you're experiencing this sort of onslaught of unhelpful thinking, and it's whirring around and around in your mind, but it's made of thought. It's not you, it's not this kind of beast that's taken over. It's thought that is really unhelpful and can feel really, really uncomfortable. But just know that it's not a part of you and that it's not permanent. That it will, as I say, it will pass. But I mean, what I like to compare it to is like a snow globe. That when it's all sort of shaken up, that's what our state of mind looks like when we're in that place. That you can't see through it because it's so foggy and kind of muddled. And that's exactly what our thinking's like in those moments. So just notice what's going on, and we often say just remember to kind of leave the back door open, because what we often do is we have all these thoughts coming into our minds, but and they come in through the front door, but then they haven't got anywhere to go, and they're just swirling around and around and around and repeating themselves over and over again. But actually, if we can maybe just imagine leaving the back door open so that they can actually leave when they're ready to. Because when we're so kind of stuck in our heads and in those moments, what I certainly found was that I was sort of pulling apart every individual thought and trying to figure out which ones were true, which ones weren't, all sorts, and engaging with them. It kind of felt like I was in a bit of a fight with them, that I was tangled up in this web of thinking. But actually, we don't have to do that. We can step out of the boxing ring, as it were. We don't have to engage with them. And just because they're really noisy, really loud, really aggressive, that doesn't mean that we have to take them seriously. And that's something that I learned over time, because I was always under the impression that because my mind created them, why would I question the thoughts that are going around in my mind? But actually, just because they're throwing a bit of a tantrum, and because they're coming round time and time again, that doesn't mean they're true. It doesn't mean that we have to take them seriously. So I would advise caution when you're in those moments where it feels totally overwhelming, just to kind of allow them to come and go. We don't have control over our thinking. We can't force them to stop, but we can decide whether or not to take them seriously. And I think that's so powerful, and that was a real game changer for me. And in those moments where we're shaking up the snow globe, there's no point in trying to, as I've just been saying, sort of engage with them and try and figure out which ones you should believe and which ones you shouldn't. But it's just about slowing down and realizing that actually what's going on in your head, you don't have to take it seriously. So that would be kind of my main message. But the last thing I wanted to say was, be really careful about judging yourself when you're in those moments and having those thought storms, because it's so easy to get stuck in that pattern of thinking that, oh, I shouldn't be feeling like this. I thought I had control over my thoughts. I thought I was recovering, but now I'm stuck in this habitual thinking and the eating disorder is taking over, and I'm not good enough and I'm not worthy, all that kind of stuff that I certainly remember having. But I would really advise caution around that, because that's not helpful. It's not helpful at all, and it's really easy to do and kind of slip into that way of thinking. But it's not your fault, and as I said right at the start, it will pass, and just trust that that's just the way that our thinking works. So I hope that's been vaguely helpful. Feel free to comment below if you've found it helpful or want us to talk about any of this a bit more. But take care and be really gentle with yourself.